On this glorious day, I'm absolutely beside myself. I have gone from being one who is always in the mix to someone who observes. It has served me well in my perception and inner growth. Today I watch as a man, cooking on an open flame, grabbed a frying pan by the handle and immediately turned it loose, exclaiming that it was hot. The person right next to him, watching the same thing, looked at his partner. The cook said, "Man, feel how hot that is." The onlooker then grabbed the pan by its handle and immediately turned it loose, saying, "That is hot." I watched in amazement. I wanted to go and say something, but my mind couldn't articulate the words. I have been fortunate or unfortunate enough, based on your perception, to bear witness an environment where incidents like this are an everyday and acceptable occurrence. But it makes me ask, why is common sense so uncommon? When common sense was first coined, was it sarcasm? Was it meant to point out that so many people don't actually use it? Is it that our world has grown so crowded, so distracted, that these lapses seem louder, more obvious, and more frequent? Or have I become more interested and aware of the behaviors around me? Maybe the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe common sense has never been as common as we like to think. See, I have become fascinated with human behavior and psychology. It all started when I was forced to look in the mirror. It's easy to shake my head at others, but as I reflect on my own past, I clearly see moments where my sense was questionable too. But here's the difference. My mistakes didn't come from a lack of common sense. They came from a lack of discernment. My life was driven by ego, by a hunger for external validation, by selfish desires that blurred my judgment. My flesh was operating on impulse, while my spirit stood in the background trying to be heard. So common sense and spiritual awareness are not the same thing, but one can help the other. On the flip side, people naturally mistake common sense for raw intelligence. When we see someone make an obvious mistake, our minds rush to judgment. How can someone be so dumb? But often as the case is, it has nothing to do with IQ. The real issue lies with disconnection, a lack of presence, a lack of awareness, a lack of discernment. You can frame a person's inability to sense what is common as being disconnected from their intuition or gut feelings. This is a core part of spiritual growth. When you're not present in the moment, you don't notice that the pan has been engulfed by open flame. When you're not connected to your intuition, you can't hear that little voice that says, "Don't touch that, it's still hot." So common sense fails when awareness is absent. This is key in understanding why people make poor decisions that seem obvious to others. And this is where it becomes more than just psychology. This is where it blends with the spiritual. Because when you're disconnected from presence, when you're deaf to intuition, you're living in the shadows of your own life. And the shadow doesn't care if you burn your hand once or 1,000 times. It will keep repeating the lesson until you wake up. Common sense in this way can benefit from spiritual alignment. It's the practice of listening to the body, the gut, and the soul, not just the logic of the mind. So maybe the real question isn't, why isn't common sense common? Maybe it's, how often are we truly living in the present? How often are we listening to our own inner knowing? Every time we fail to slow down, to observe, to connect inward, we risk touching the hot pan again and again. So common sense isn't about being smart or how high your IQ is. It's not about acquiring knowledge or degrees. It's about awareness, being present in your life, having discernment. And the more you protect your energy, the more you silence the ego, the more common sense becomes natural sense. So the next time you see someone burn their hand on the obvious, don't just laugh. Ask yourself, where in my own life am I ignoring the heat, pretending not to feel the flame? Because in the end, wisdom isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about waking up enough to learn from them before you get burned twice. I leave you with this. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Common sense is not putting it in a fruit salad. Continue with me at the 8th house as we discuss the topics that inspire true growth. Share below a time that made you question common sense.